going on, Straight Talk Faithful? Your host back again with another great interview. Very excited to talk to this man. It was very easy to get a hold of, super polite. We just had a quick chat before I pushed record. I can't waste any more time. I'm excited to see him. If any of you listening have ever gone to a Greektown Wrestling, you probably would have seen him there. If not, you could have catch him all over the place because he's absolutely fantastic. Please welcome to Straight Talk Wrestling, Jock Samson. How are you, sir?
Hey, buddy, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm about to talk wrestling with you. I mean, I can't complain. Life is good. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know, man. If I was any better, buddy, I'd tell you I'd be twins right now. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Jock, you know what? I'm really excited to talk to you. I actually had a good friend of mine, Joe Hagan, who actually turned me on to you a couple of months ago, and he mentioned that you were just an absolute epic talent. So I started researching you for the show and preparing in a chance to reach out and talk to you. And super, super easy to get a hold of you, and I thank you for that. A lot of guys are not so quick to get back to me, but you were, and I appreciate that so much. In doing my research...
Oh, not a problem, man. Not a problem.
Oh, I appreciate that. In doing my research, as I always do to prepare for these interviews, I was able to watch some of your older matches, and we'll talk about one in particular that I really, really enjoyed. I actually just finished watching it right before you called me, but I'm not going to reveal it yet. It's too early on in the show. But I will start off. I will start off my interview with you like I do with everybody else. Excuse me, my standard go-to question, which I like to call the defining moment. Do you remember the defining moment where you fell in love with this business that we're going to be talking about today?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. I think, as anybody knows, I'm not a spring chicken. I'm 40 years old. I was born in 1979. I grew up in the heyday of professional wrestling. In the heyday, a lot of folks probably listen to this, and they'll probably think, what do you mean, the 2005, 2010, But I grew up as a fan of the 1980s WWF because I grew up in southeastern Ohio in a little small town called Nelsonville, home of Rocky Shoes and Boots. And, of course, Ohio was always a big Georgia Championship Wrestling hotbed when I was a kid. And but what got me into pro wrestling was the WWF. So I don't know if anybody knows what these are, but there was a thing once upon a time called a video cassette tape. You'd put it in a VCR, and you used to have to get up and go to the store and rent them. I know. I'm not sure how old you are, Bub, but.
I'm 36, so I know exactly what you're talking about, but I do have some listeners that are younger than you and I, and they're probably sitting there scratching their head going, what is renting? What is a VHS? This is all renting. Weird. What is this?
Yeah, very weird. So, for me, growing up, one of my favorite things to do was, on a Saturday night, get a pizza, and my mother and I, because I was an only child to a single mother, and she'd get a pizza, and we'd go rent 3 or 4 movies. They would be like $1 a piece to rent them overnight, and I'd sit and watch all of them. And I look up into the corner of, like, this video bin that was in a store called Lancaster Cells. We called it LS. And I see a picture of this big, giant monster of a man standing and looking down upon another monster, man. It happened to be Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 3. And I saw that, and then I said, man, I need to get this. And I've been hooked ever since. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Spectacular 93,000 people sitting inside of a building to watch guys in underwear fight for a belt. So seeing Hulk Hogan as a child was I can't explain it to where if you're like a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid, probably the same as these guys out here with John Cena. But seeing Hulk Hogan pick up the Giant and slam him, so that was probably my defining moment in my life. that led me to be a professional wrestler.
Hey, I can't knock the moment. That match definitely holds a memory for me, for sure. Not my favorite WrestleMania. My favorite WrestleMania all time. I mean, or one match that sticks out to me. I guess you could say one of my many defining moments, but the one I look back to the most fondness is WrestleMania 10. Specifically, though, Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. That was a match to me that still to this day stands the test of time. That's a bookmark match. I mean, if you're looking to get into this business, that would be one match I would recommend to any up and comer so they can really see what two ring generals can do when put in a ring together.
Oh, absolutely. And the best thing about professional wrestling is there's a little bit of something for everybody. For every Hulk Hogan, you got your Bret Hart. For every Bret Hart, you got your Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the NWA stuff. For every Ric Flair, you got your Magnum TA. For every Magnum TA, you got Sting. For every Sting, you got the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. You got wrestling, you got entertainment, you got everything you need. And I tell you, man, you can't go wrong with Bret and Owen, and that's one of my favorite matches. To turn back on, if someone puts it on, and watch, I will sit down and watch it. But my favorite Bret Hart match is the one him and Roddy Piper had at WrestleMania.
Yep, 100%.
And the story that they told was just phenomenal because I don't like one thing I'm not a fan of is similar styles. I really like to see two different types of styles. They used to say in boxing and MMA that styles make fights, and in that match, you have the excellence of execution, one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever. And then you got Roddy Piper, who was raw and, just full of energy and would fight you. He could wrestle, but he couldn't wrestle like Bret. What he could do inside of Bret was just get crazy and willing to do anything. They told an absolute fantastic story there. And the referee is actually a friend of mine who was the referee of that match, Roger Ruffin out of Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati. So don't look nothing like you now.
Yeah, I guess you could say that the wrestling business in some ways it's great, but it also does age you very quickly just with the schedule and with commitments and all that kind of stuff. And I guess that actually leads to my next question because right before this interview earlier today when we were confirming, you mentioned that you had to drop your daughter off. So before we kind of go back and we talk about how you got started and who you trained with coming from that small town that you mentioned, how is it balancing the family life with the wrestling schedule? I'm always intrigued by this just because how hard you guys are on the road all the time. You're grinding. And especially now, I mean, the indies are great. There's so much out there, but you really have to, I guess, kind of balance that workload. How do you balance that?
I got lucky and got a pretty good wife out of it. That she knows better than tell me what to do. She just says, whatever makes you happy, go about it. But it's very difficult being a father and a husband and being a professional wrestler. It's one of the most difficult things, especially now that my daughter's 5. It makes it rough because now Daddy leaves for 2 to 3 to 4 days at a time, and I don't come home, and she's at the point where she's crying when I leave. She doesn't understand it. She don't understand Daddy's going to work. And I'm very lucky and blessed that I got a good wife to take us some of that load, and she's very unselfish, to still let me go out there and do this but she understands that professional wrestling is my job. It's a hell of a job, and I don't recommend it to everybody because it's not meant for everybody. Yeah, it took some getting used to, man, especially the older my daughter got, and she's like, why is Daddy leaving? And yeah, it's very hard to do it, very hard to juggle it. It's just, it's kind of hard to talk about a lot of times because just the worst thing in the world is being 9 hours away from your beautiful daughter,
Oh, I
And
completely
my wife,
understand.
any married man would understand. Like, they're fine being away from their wife. Yeah, we're happy. Trust me, it gives us time to miss each other, because if I never go away, she can't miss me.
Very true. Very true.
When I ain't there, we ain't fighting. So,
You know what? I have two
but
daughters myself, and I'm not away. My schedule's not as crazy as yours, but there's times where I gotta come home. I gotta scarf down some food. I got a podcast interview to do, or I gotta run out to a wrestling show to scout a talent that I want to see to try to get him on the show. And I got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old going on 4. And my 9-year-old, she gets it. She's a big fan like myself and my wife. But much like you, I'm blessed with a great wife who understands that this is my passion. This is what I want to do, and is always behind me to support me, whatever makes me happy. So I'm definitely on that wavelength with you.
yeah, I tell you, man, it does make it easier, because I know a lot of guys that are wrestlers and they don't have kids and they'll get a girlfriend. And like, for the first 3-4 months, the girl is like all into the guy to try to lock him in, and once once the guy falls in love with her and this and that, she all of a sudden hates wrestling and doesn't want him doing it. I don't know how many guys, and this goes for girls too. I'm not saying just guys. I mean, when people get in a relationship, I'm just explaining from my point of view.
Oh, of course.
But I see a lot of folks, they'll disappear. They get another person in their life, and they seem to take that away. So anybody who's in a relationship that's been wrestling as long as I have, that's exactly what they should look for, not for just somebody to be with, because wrestling is very important to me. And I know my wife ain't going to take it away from me. The only person going to take it away is myself, and I'm the only one that can make that decision. Being 40, I know it's coming up too, so I know I'm coming closer to the end more so than the beginning. And to be lucky to get Linda, and you've probably seen some of my promos. My wife likes to get involved in my promos.
I have. Yeah, your promos, man, are top notch. I got to tell you, I love your promos. They are fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My wife's enjoyed being involved, but she kind of wants to be like Charlie Brown's parents and not be heard and not seen. So,
yeah.
But that's kind of how we talk to each other in real life. We'll just, I don't know if I can say, well, we just MF each other all the time and make fun of each other relentlessly. Like, you'd think we'd hate each other, and we're just picking, pick, because I'm the kind of guy, if I'm not picking on you, I don't like you.
I'm the same way, man.
Treat you like shit.
Yeah, I'm the same way, buddy. I think you and I have more in common than I think we realize.
Yeah, you're probably right, man. Yeah, like I hang out these guys from Michigan. Their names are the Scarbonis. We call ourselves the 450 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Scarbonis, Danny Shea, Vinny from Jersey. They're all out of the business. I'm the only one left. And we have a group text, and we just treat each other like shit. just treat each other horrible. Call each other a piece of shit all day long. But yeah, we're the first ones to be there throwing chairs if one of us needs us to. Always stand up for each other. So yeah, that's kind of how we are.
It's honestly, it sounds like a fantastic relationship, and I feel like if you're honest with your friends and you have that rapport, then there will be people who look at you and be like, is that guy your friend? Like, how do you let him talk to you like that? It's like, you just don't get a relationship. That's how we are. If we aren't insulting one another or trying to, poke as big as fun as we possibly can, then we're not good friends. You get to that point in that level in your life that you can be comfortable with one another. That's when the friendship and relationships are the absolute best.
Yeah, I think that's where I get a lot of my promo stuff, because I'm always cutting promos on each and every one of them, like daily. So.
Well, you gotta keep yourself current, man. So you might as well practice before you record it, right?
Yeah, practice on the people I love.
There you go. So let's actually swing backwards a little bit. Let's talk about. So you mentioned that that moment, WrestleMania 3, Andre getting slammed by Hogan. Great memory, great moment. When did you decide that you wanted to pursue wrestling as a career? And who did you start training with? Because from where you're from, I'm sure there might have been, but I'm sure there wasn't too many wrestling schools floating around at the time.
No, to be honest with you, I live in the poorest part of the state of Ohio. I'm actually from southeastern Ohio, which is the hometown of the new Heisman Trophy winner in college football, Joey Burrow. He grew up 10 minutes from where I did, and he made an impassioned speech about how impoverished the county that I grew up in was, and someone got like a GoFundMe up there for the Athens County Food Bank. They've already raised like $500,000. So there's really not a lot I had growing up. I was close to Ohio University in Athens, but other than that, there really wasn't a whole lot, for anybody. And so what got me into pro wrestling, I know I digress, but I try to to explain, how and why and for, whatever there, but there wasn't really any wrestling schools to where when I was coming up, there was a promotion, like a little small outlaw promotion in Logan, Ohio, that ran, I think it was back in 03, 04, and they would run in this one place weekly down in Logan, Ohio. And, I would always just joke with everybody and cut promos on everybody. And they said, hey, why don't you come in there and be a manager? And at the time, I was into powerlifting. So I was 24, 25 years old, and I was a pretty strong dude, big dude. But they'd have me come in and manage people. And then I just got hooked. And then nobody there was really trained to be wrestlers, and I didn't understand what being a trained pro wrestler meant or not, because you just, I didn't know how to look for it. I didn't know why. But I ran into a fella, and he put me in contact with another guy who happened to be my trainer. His name was Brian Logan. He was in the Disciples of Sin at OZW, the one that had Jim Cornette's wife manage him, that had Batista in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And they put me in contact for him, and he trained me in a very, very old school way. We had 16 people in our training class when I started, and I am the only one left. We only had 3 left at the end of our training because guys just couldn't hack it. We were doing 500 air squats a day, 200 push-ups. For the first 2 weeks, we didn't even get in a ring. We just did calisthenics and aerobics, and we would chain wrestle on the outside. We had to earn the right to get inside of a ring. And and I met him, and about 3 or 4 months later, I was wrestling.
Wow, I love how you mentioned, one thing you said there that really stuck out to me was that you learned how to chain wrestle on the outside because you had to earn the right to get into the ring. That definitely is an old school mentality. I haven't heard any, I've interviewed a lot of the newer cats coming up, a lot of the great female talent, a lot of the great male talent coming up. But you're one of the first old school, I've even interviewed a couple WWE legends. And when I've asked them about their training sessions and stuff like that, there's only one other wrestler that mentioned that just like you did, and that was Barry Horowitz. And he mentioned that, you had to earn the right to get into the ring. And man, you're right, that's definitely an old school way of being trained for sure. So, you know what? Obviously you did. You earned the right to be in the ring, and you've been wrestling, if that was, you were 24, 25, you've been wrestling close to 15 years.
Yeah, my 15th year began on October 30th of this year. So.
Well, congratulations on that, man. Because 15 years, that's a huge accomplishment, man. Take that with you, because that's an incredible accomplishment.
15 years in professional wrestling is the definition of insanity. If you catch my drift.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. So.
No, but yeah, 15 years. We had to go about it the right way, and I feel that a lot of people don't have to sacrifice like what I did. So I think that's why I appreciate and respect the business as much as I do, is because of what kind of hell we got put through. And I played high school football and wrestling, and none of it equaled how hard wrestling training was.
You know what? You're not the first person I've heard say that, and I've never stepped in a ring myself. I appreciate, though, everyone that has the guts and the tenacity to step in that ring, because it isn't easy what you guys do. And that's why I kind of started this podcast, because I wanted to have these great conversations, but I also wanted to kind of educate people on the fact that they really should appreciate wrestlers, because this is the only sport where you can work up to 340 to 350 days a year. People don't realize that. People just think, oh, they're only on Mondays and Fridays. No, there's way more to the business than just Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and one Sunday a month. There's literally house shows. There's indie shows. There's guys grinding like you, going from here to there. And you start off sometimes just making gas money. Sometimes you're not making money at all. You're just trying to get exposure. So people don't realize the struggle and what you have to sacrifice to be a pro wrestler. I do. I appreciate it. And I don't know if you've ever been told, but in doing my research and seeing the type of gentleman you are, I will say this to you, sir. I will say thank you. Because you've given 15 years of your life to fans like myself. I can't say anything else but thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's because of guys like you and fans like you is why I'm still out there jumping off the top rope. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. And you know what? Actually,
no, I don't. And actually, I don't jump off the top rope. That was just
I was about to say I don't. In the matches that I've seen, I don't think I've ever seen you jump off the top rope. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I just haven't seen it. Yeah. But one thing I do want to mention is that I know you were at Greektown this past weekend, December 15th, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. Just got home yesterday, about like 8 o'clock last night. Yeah, I was Greektown Pro this Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to get out to a Greektown show. It is definitely on my bucket list. But if I'm not mistaken, you faced a former guest of mine, I believe it was RJ City, correct?
That's correct.
RJ City, man, that guy is absolutely hilarious. And I think you and him, I didn't get a chance to see the match yet. It's not available for me to watch on the internet yet. But I'm assuming it was probably one epic battle of wits, if you will, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, if you go to Greektown Pro's Facebook page, they do have a live link that Channing Decker, the promoter, he puts out, and you will be able to see it as soon as you get off this podcast. You can get down and put it down and check it out. He has both he has the entire show on the Facebook page. So you can actually get down there and check it out if you got a Facebook.
I do.
I just now figured it out. I just got rid of my MySpace last week, you
know. Oh man, you're aging you're aging us terribly right now. Nobody out there would remember MySpace.
Oh, I know. Hang on, I gotta yell at someone. They're on my lawn, so I gotta get them out of my lawn. So hang on. But yeah, like me and RJ City, we had a big match this Sunday. I've always been a heel in Canada. I've never won a match in all six years since I've been wrestling in Canada. And it's been a 6-year storyline. I've never won a match in Canada until Sunday night, where I pinned RJ City.
Now that's what you call an epic slow build. 6 years.
6 years. Had promoters want to put me over in places, and I've had to tell them, no, I can't. I've got this storyline going. I can't do it. So it's been a very patient, slow build, and I'll let the match speak for itself when everybody there. Just go to Greektown Pro's Facebook page, check the link out. Just don't look for my match, but look for all the great talent that's on the card there. You know, Aiden Prince, you got Jake Something, Matt Justice, Trent Gibson, Channing Decker, Frankie the Monster. You got all kinds of great guys. And then you're talking about my opponent, RJ City, who is more like me, which if anybody knows, I'm a freaking hillbilly. I wear dirty, shitty boots, and I wear a cowboy hat. I go to redneck bars. I like to raise hell. I'm not afraid to get into damn fights.
Hey, guys, it's your boy, your host, George Mackay. Want to let you know that this podcast today was sponsored by Podcorn. I've actually used Podcorn a couple times, and I got to say it's absolutely fantastic. It helps podcasters and marketeers get together to come to a marketplace connecting and helping sponsorship opportunities such as host read ads, interview segments, topical discussions, and so much more. With Podcorn, there's no middleman. Podcasters of all sizes can browse and choose opportunities right on the platform, set their own rates, and collaborate with brands directly without any exclusivities. You never give up the rights to your podcast, and Podcorn is here to support you every step and ensure you're protected and compensated for the work that you do for brands. Click the link below in my show notes and sign up for Podcorn and start browsing sponsorship opportunities today. Don't believe me? take a look at their website. They have a lot of fantastic testimonials on there, letting you know that it's legitimate. But trust me when I say, Podcorn has helped my podcast grow in so many ways.
But an RJ is a very articulate guy from Toronto. Would you say a metrosexual? So we're not alike in those ways by any means, but we have the same thought process on professional wrestling. His finisher is a sleeper hold. Mine's a running elbow drop. He likes to talk shit. I love to talk shit. I think everyone should go check that match out. It was the first time I've been a babyface in like 10 years. So, yeah.
You know what?
It was a very good match.
You know what? I will definitely check the link out after for sure. A lot of the guys you've mentioned that are on that card, I've interviewed or I'm in the process of getting in contact. Frankie the Beast, we had to reschedule, but I'm going to get him for sure. Channing Decker and I, we've been going back and forth here and there. Schedule hasn't cleared up yet, but I will get him. RJ City, I've had the pleasure. Aiden Prince, he's actually one of my close personal friends. And you're right, Channing Decker always brings some of the best talent to Greektown. And actually, that spins to my question about my favorite match of yours that I've seen so far. One that I do want to talk to you about now. I did mention in the beginning of the show we were going to get into it, so we are going to get into it. But I will. It might be a second place now because I might enjoy the RJ City and Jock Samson match more. So we'll have to wait and see. But one of my favorite matches is from, I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's October 2017. It's you versus Colt Cabana at Greektown Wrestling. I watched.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I went back, buddy. I went back a little bit. You had a lot of great ones. It was hard to narrow it down, but I kept going back to this one. I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again this morning when I was getting ready for work, and then I watched it again like 20 minutes before the match. And before we started talking. And this one is, I'm a big Colt Cabana fan, but this one, I love everything. I mean, obviously the decision did not go your way, but I loved everything from beginning to end. And I got to say, man, one of the things that I really enjoy about your matches is you're a big boy like me. You're not afraid to get into fights and wrestle and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I think a lot of people don't see, and maybe you don't even see it yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong. But your speed, when you do move around that ring for a big boy, man, you fly. You really do fly around that ring. And I don't mean jumping off the top. I just mean your speed. Your strength is there for sure, 100%. But your speed, I think, is a lot of people find it very underwhelming. But I think it's fantastic. I really do think you have a lot of speed. Even for a gentleman of 40, I think you're in great shape. And I think you really do move around the ring quite quickly. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but that's what I see. Every time I went back to this match, you guys had some moments in there where there was a lot of speed, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. Also enjoyed the finisher where we got to see your butt hanging out of your pants right before he cradled you. Inside cradle for the win.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It's a very nice thing you'd say. It's kind of hard for I've never had, I've always felt like I was always a good athlete because I was an all-state football player from Ohio, and I played sports my whole life. I'm very passionate about sports, and I may not look like it. I got a beer belly, but I do work out and I do cardio religiously. I just think my genetics are telling me that I'm not supposed to look like Jake something or mainly Channing Decker. I'm not supposed to have that look. So I guess when I move around the ring that it's more impressive. But half the time people can't see me because I've got to catch these little guys. I got to catch guys like Aiden Prince, who are very fast and athletic. And most time people just see my mouth, me just running my damn mouth. But I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
that was a fun match.
Yeah, that was one of my, like I said, I did a lot of research. I always prepare for these interviews with as much research as I possibly can. And that one was one, for whatever reason, I just kept going back to. I'm like, you know what? He's done some great work. You have an amazing resume and an extensive body of work. But that one to me, man, that one sticks out above everything else. I really enjoyed that match.
Well, I appreciate it. I've probably worked Colt. I think I've worked Colt probably more than I have anybody in my entire career.
Yeah, there's something about Colt Cabana.
He's at least one of them.
Yeah, he's underrated.
I've worked him in Canada. I've worked him in West Virginia, Ohio. I tell you, I was on his podcast earlier this year, and we were joking, like, I'm always the guy working him when someone brings him into town. They always just put me and him together. We got a good rapport. Me and him are night and day, like two different types of guys that you never ever would expect that would have some kind of. We're not friends by any means because we don't hang out. We're just work acquaintances. And he's always been super cool to me. Very giving in the ring. I had just had a match with him in Charleston, West Virginia for a promotion called Pro Wrestling Conquest. And if they can ever get the DVD out, I'll make sure I send you a link because that match was probably the best one we had. So as soon as that one gets out, I will make sure I send it your way. But yeah, I couldn't ask for a nicer, a better opponent than Colt Cabana. Like, he's a very, very unselfish guy in the ring. And I can see why people all across the world know who he is and love him. So.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if you ever work at him again, you tell him from one podcaster to another, he is probably one of my early inspirations for the reason why I started my show up. So you tip my hat to him for me, okay?
I sure will, buddy.
One of the things I did want to talk to you about is I love your Twitter. I follow you on Twitter. I follow you on Instagram, and I think everything you do is great. But to go back to last Sunday night, you tweeted this. I believe it was about 8 hours ago. I will always feel like Danforth / Greektown is my home, away from home. It's a truly wonderful place with wonderful people. I love you all. Thank you. Greektown Wrestling, East York, Detroit Eatery, Canada. And you know what? A lot of people don't realize, and that's why it's great to get you on the show, don't realize the amazing talent pool and amazing scene we have here in Ontario. I mean, it's not just Greektown. There's so many other fantastic promotions. You got Alpha One in Hamilton. You got Crossbody in Kitchener. You got Destiny Wrestling in Mississauga. You got Battle Arts Pro, Santino Morella's Wrestling School. And there's so many other promotions. There's Hamilton Pro Wrestling. There's so many other great promotions that I'm not meant. Barry Wrestling. So many. I can't even list them all. There's just too many to discover. And a lot of people don't realize the talent and the great scene that we have out here. It's percolating. It's hot. A lot of people think that wrestling died here in Canada when guys like Bret Hart retired, when Owen Hart passed away, when we lost all our Canadian faithful. But if you look at the WWE product now, and even some of the products now, there is some great Canadian talent out there. If there was, I have a lot of American listeners as well, and I know they tune in every week because they love the interviews that I do and stuff like that. But from an American wrestler like yourself who comes over here all the time and wrestles, like you said, 6 years in Canada, and you finally got a win, can you explain to them, or can you shed some light any better than I can about how great it is wrestling here in Canada?
Well, I think the thing that I like most about wrestling in Canada is how the fans respect, truly respect the business of professional wrestling. Granted, I know we all know that the veil of professional wrestling, the kayfabe, is kind of out and everyone knows the end. But you never have to worry about any kind of bullshit in Canada from the fans because they'll cheer, they'll boo who they like, yay and boo whatever. But at the end of the day, they're coming up to everybody, thanking you so much for whatever, and I'm just in awe because my whole character is based off of a redneck loving Donald Trump guy.
100%. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And you Canuck bastards turn me babyface, and I don't understand it. Like, I can't explain how amazing, the Canadian wrestling fans are, and how in love I am with each and every one of them. I never in my wildest dreams would ever think that I would be a babyface in any promotion, really anywhere. But especially in Canada, when I say Donald J. Trump, the J stands for Jesus. You figure someone would call me. I do that in the United damn States, and someone's ready to whoop my ass. Except in West Virginia, you do that in West Virginia, and it makes you a babyface. But the wrestling fans in America, they're great fans too. And don't get me wrong, they are great. Just a little bit more edgy than I'd say in Canada. They still respect it just as much. I just like how friendly Canadians are. And then to top that off, so you got all these great people to wrestle in front of. And then you get to share the rings with people like RJ City. You get to share the ring with Channing Decker. You get to share the ring with Puff, who's from Buffalo, New York, but he's up there quite a bit. John Atlas, Trent Gibson. There's a young kid out there in Kitchener, Ontario I like a lot by the name of Jimbo Jones. I love the kid. He just got to figure out who he is, and he could be something. He needs to figure out why you cross the T's and why you dot the I's. And once he figures that all out, that kid's going to be special. You got Ethan Page. I just wrestled Ethan Page and Josh Alexander, and I found out how goddamn good both of those guys are and how similar to me they really are on the thought process on the business. So that really impressed me. Jesus, we could be here. This could be an all-night podcast if I just sit here and put every single Canadian wrestler. Then you got female wrestlers like Alexia Nicole. She's fantastic. Jody Threat, she's fantastic. Jesus Christ, I mean, it's too bad that y'all can't get across the border and come here to the States. I tell you, there'd be a lot of guys out of jobs here in the United States. Because the talent up there is fantastic. Channing Decker is going to Japan here. I couldn't be more happier. Like, Channing Decker is one of my favorite people, one of my best friends in all of pro wrestling. And I'm so happy. He's going to Japan for Big Japan Wrestling in January. So, tons of people up there, man. It's a religion, I believe, for Canadian people. So, I just can't say enough good things about the Canadian people, and especially the people down there in the Danforth and Greektown Pro. I even go back up at times when I'm not wrestling. I take my wife up, and we go up there and raise hell, and we go hit the bars, and I like how your guys' Canadian medicine is legal up there when it ain't here in the States.
Yes, sir.
Just such a wonderful place. I've wrestled in Sarnia, Ontario. It's beautiful. I've never wrestled in Montreal. I would like to go to Montreal. I would like to go out to the Maritimes and kick Bubbles' ass and meet the cast of Letterkenny. And I'm just very fond. If I wasn't so proud to be an American, and I would probably just up and move to Canada, but I don't think the government would like me too much.
You know what? Speaking from a Canadian, we would take you in a heartbeat. You're a class act, sir, and you are one hell of a wrestling talent. And it's been an honor. It's been an honor to speak with you. I do have one more question left, and I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Sure. If there's a young fan listening to this right now, and they're looking to break into the business, they're looking to get into the business for the first time, male or female, doesn't matter. And you could give them any kind of advice in your, like I said, your amazing 15-year career, and congratulations on that again. What would you say to that young fan that may be listening?
Well, I would explain to them, I actually have a habit about telling young guys that are trying to get into the wrestling business. They always come up and, say, what should I do? And I immediately tell them, don't be a professional wrestler. And you may ask yourself, why would I say that? Because I've been wrestling for 15 years, and I will tell them they will never look at professional wrestling the same again. I don't look at wrestling like I did when I was a kid. I still remember those days. I remember how I felt. But I don't view the business the same as a professional wrestler. Like, I don't watch a lot of pro wrestling anymore. I know a lot of wrestlers enjoy it, but me, myself, there's other things I like to do. When I get off the road, the last thing I want to do is think about pro wrestling a lot of times. I just want to kiss my girl. I want to kiss my wife. I want to watch my Cincinnati Reds. I want to watch my Columbus Blue Jackets, my Buckeyes. I love watching sports. And you don't realize the sacrifices when you become a pro wrestler, especially in your first 3 to 4 years, because your first 3 to 4 years is going to be the make it or break it time. Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to learn how to eat shit, and you're going to have to learn how to like the taste. You're not going to make no money. It's all about the exposure. You will get treated with respect, but you will be treated like a greenhorn. You will be responsible for getting guys sandwiches and putting up the ring and this and that. It's a very hard road. You will miss if you have kids, especially if you're starting out and you got kids. Don't even do it if you have kids. If you had kids before you started out, don't even do it, because your wife is not going to understand, your husband and wife, because you're going to be leaving and you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money left and right from when you start. I didn't start making money till like year 4 or 5 for me. And I wasn't with my wife at the time, so thank God, because she may not have wanted me to do it or feel like she does. But if you got kids, eventually down the road, you're going to have kids. You're going to get married. You're going to miss birthdays. You're going to miss anniversaries. You're going to miss Christmas sometimes. You're going to miss Thanksgiving. I'm a diehard Ohio State fan. I have to miss some Ohio State games because I'm on the road, but thank God for technology and the cell phone. I can watch them on there now. Thank God. But you're going to miss a lot of shit. You're going to drive 16 hours. Let's just say I drove 8 hours to Canada, 8 hours home for a 20-minute wrestling match. And granted, a lot of kids, you're going to do that now, and you're going to drive 8 hours. You need to expect that you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money for a while because you're in the learning process. So it's very hard to make money at this. It's very hard to succeed because there's a reason it's a 1% business. And if you listen to everything I say, I will wish you luck. I tell you to go find a reputable trainer. Go find somebody that's been somewhere, that's done something in this business. Don't go to some guy down the street who nobody's ever heard of. You need to go to pro wrestling shows. You need to go up to people who are wrestlers and say, look, I need to be a pro wrestler. Who can I get trained by? And they give you a name. Go online now. Thankfully, you can go online and do research. Find out if they've been somewhere, if they've done something, who they beat, where they've been. I would tell you who to go to in Canada, but I'm not real sure about who trains up there. But find a reputable trainer, someone that's just not there to take your money, someone that's going to teach you the right way, how to respect the business. So if you can get past the first 4 or 5 years, you're going to be okay. Because I want to leave you with this, and this is kind of a funny in jest, but wrestling is like the boyfriend or girlfriend that you've been with for years, okay? And everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows that, they know that she's not good for you. And a lot of people will say, I don't know why you're with her. She's not good for you. The only person that knows how in love you are with her or the business is you. So don't let nobody, once you make up your mind, just straight ahead, go forward. Don't let nobody tell you what to do. Don't take no for an answer and go out there and kick ass, because I'm 40 years old. My tour of duty is close to being done in this business. So you have to make every opportunity matter. And for God's sakes, take care of yourself and don't hurt yourself in the ring. So, but that's all I can really say on that. It's just, I wish you luck. And I hope it works out for you. And if any young guys ever want to show and they're listening to this and they come up to me, I will be glad to take time to sit down with you, talk to you, explain stuff to you. Nobody's too big and too good for that. So I'm very approachable. Unless I'm in character, then I'll tell you to fuck off. But for the most part,
oh man,
if you catch me, outside of it, I'm pretty easy to get along with. So.
Wow, Jock, that was incredible words. That was a great way to wrap this podcast up. It was an honor to talk to you, and I want to take the time out now to officially let you know you are now a member of the Straight Talk family. Anytime you want to get back on the show, anytime you want to shoot the shit with me, I would be absolutely honored to talk to you again.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, man. I'm very happy to join La Familia. I appreciate you. Sounds like you got a good thing going on here. I hope all the listeners enjoyed our last 45 minutes as much as I have. So, thank you. Thank you very much, my friend.
All right, my friend. You take care. You enjoy the rest of your night. And you tell your wife and your daughter from me, thank you for letting Daddy become part of the Canadian family because we appreciate him.
I sure will. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, guys, what can I say? Jock Samson, absolute class act. 15 years in the business, and that last 5 minutes was more education than I think anybody could have possibly asked for. Possibly, he shed some huge light on the business, and he gave some great pointers. And it's not like we haven't heard that before. Talked to a lot of legends on the show, and they've all said everything, but I think his was the most honest, real, and raw answer I've ever had on Straight Talk. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to him. To my longtime listener, former guest, Joey Maxim, a.k.a. Joe Hagan. Thank you, sir, for turning me on to him. He's an absolute class act. It was an honor to speak with him today. That's it, again, for another edition of Straight Talk Wrestling. As always, I'm your host, George Mackay. Follow the socials. Subscribe to me on Podbean. It's worth it. If you've listened to any of my episodes in sequence, you know they just keep getting better and better and better. This is probably, thus far, I will put a stamp on this now, one of my favorite interviews of 2020. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. Don't forget to tune in next week. As always, I'm your host, George Mackay. Thank you so much for listening. Peace.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another episode on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Also follow us on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And for all our merchandise, you can search us on ProWrestlingTees.com.